Hey guys, Spud here, and today we're hopping back in the new C-130J Super Herc to issue a bit of a correction for my previous Simplified Autopilot and Navigation tutorial. In that tutorial, I had stated that the IAS, or Indicated Airspeed Pitch Mode of the Flight Director, was currently bugged or in-op. And thankfully, one of the devs of the C-130J kindly reached out to me and pointed me towards a little blurb in the manual that I had missed that explains that the indicated airspeed or IAS pitch mode of the Flight Director is incompatible with also using the autothrottle in the C-130. And so I figured today we'd hop back in and take a look at how the IAS pitch mode of the Flight Director and Autopilot actually works. And I figured we'd use this opportunity to also take a look at our new work-in-progress Royal Daimar Air Force skin for the C-130. And please feel free to let me know what you guys think of this skin and any improvements or ideas you might have down in the comments below. So let's hop in the cockpit here and take a look at the IAS pitch mode of the Flight Director and Autopilot here in the C-130J. Okay guys, we are back in the cockpit of the C-130J Super Herc, and we'll jump right into talking about how the IAS, or Indicated Airspeed Pitch Mode of the Flight Director, actually works. But we're not going to rehash anything that we previously talked about in the previous tutorial. So if you're confused about how to navigate in the C-130 or use the Flight Director or Autopilot systems, definitely watch my previous tutorial first, and a link is pinned in the comments section down below. Now, IAS pitch mode of the Flight Director is functionally identical to the flight level change or level change modes you'll find in other transport-type aircraft like in Microsoft Flight Simulator. However, interestingly, here in the C-130, this mode, IAS mode, or level change mode if you want to call it that, is incompatible with the Autothrottle System. And that's definitely a gotcha, and you can see here that that gotcha got me, and otherwise we wouldn't be making this tutorial here. So, IAS mode is going to be definitely your friend when it comes to prolonged climbs and descents at specific airspeeds. So if we were to get, say, some ATC instructions that sounds like, hey, Spud 1, slow to 220 indicated, descend and maintain 5,000 feet, IAS mode might be the easiest way to descend our C-130 down to 5,000 feet at 220 knots of indicated airspeed. So we'll first jump into that descent example, and then we'll do an example of a prolonged climb at a specific airspeed as well after that. So looking down at the center pedestal here, we can see that the pilot autopilot channel is engaged and our co-pilot channel is disengaged, of course. And we'll go for those previous ATC instructions. Spud 1, slow to 220 knots indicated, descend and maintain 5,000 feet. So what we'll do here is we will set our altitude select knob to 5,000 feet per those ATC instructions, and we can of course see that up on the HUD just above our altitude box, and we can also see it mirrored down here on the PFD as well. Now, we've also been told to slow to 220 knots of indicated airspeed, so we're going to ensure that our ref knob is set to IAS, and we will select 220 knots of indicated airspeed. We can see that here up above our airspeed box as well on the HUD and on the PFD as well. And at this point, we are going to need to turn off the auto throttle in order to be able to use the IAS mode here. So we'll start to pull the power back towards idle. We will hit IAS mode, and with the power at idle, the aircraft is now going to pitch to try and maintain 220 knots of indicated airspeed. Now, as you guys can see here, the aircraft is pitching down quite aggressively, and we're getting almost up, all the way up to almost 5,000 feet per minute on our VSI there. So if that's a bit aggressive for you and it's making you a bit uncomfortable, you can always push up the throttles a little bit, which will force the nose of the aircraft up because the aircraft is simply just pitching for the desired indicated airspeed. Whoop, looks like we came back up wide 1 knot. Let's go ahead and make sure we got 220 set there. So for the most part, 90% of the time or so, when you're descending using IAS mode, you're probably going to want to be at idle or at least near idle on your throttles here. And then as we start to get closer to 5,000 feet, if you would like to smooth things out a little bit, you can always just push those throttles up a little bit in order to lessen your pitch angle and make for a little bit of a smoother capture of your selected altitude. And we can see here that the nose of the C-130 is kind of fishing around a little bit, trying to maintain that 220 knots of airspeed there. And that's definitely to be expected. So we're coming pretty close here. We're getting closer towards 5,000. Got 1,000 feet to go. So we might start to think about gently walking those throttles up a little bit to bring the nose up for a smoother capture of our selected altitude, in this case 5,000 feet. And we can see as we bring up the throttles a little bit, the pitch is definitely lessening, and we're getting a nice, smooth, and gentle capture of the altitude. And boom, there it is. And if we so desire, we can pop those auto throttles back on and make it nice and easy to maintain that 220 knots of indicated airspeed we were given a restriction for via ATC. And we can see there when we popped on the auto throttles, it automatically set the speed that we were at when the auto throttle system was turned on. We just need to pop that back up to 220 knots and we are good to go. Now, let's say that ATC comes back to us on the radio here and they say, hey, Spud1, sorry about that. We need you to climb back up to 8,000 feet and please speed back up to 250 knots indicated. Okay, no problem. All we need to do is set 8,000 feet. Whoop, that was the baro set. That's my bad. And set 8,000 feet in our altitude window up here, of course mirrored down on our PFD as well. And then we'll go ahead and select 250 knots of indicated airspeed. We'll then turn the auto throttles off, IAS on, and we'll push the throttles up basically all the way to full power here. And we'll see the aircraft is going to pitch for 250 knots of indicated airspeed as it climbs up to 8,000 feet. It's important to note here that you always want to keep an eye on your selected indicated airspeed here, as changing different modes on the Flight Director usually snaps your current indicated airspeed into your selected airspeed window here. So it's always important to cross-check your selected airspeed window, what you've got up here in your HUD, and of course down on your PFD as well. And we can see now that we're settled out here a little bit, we've got full power, and the aircraft is basically giving us a max performance climb to 8,000 feet at 250 knots of indicated airspeed. And usually this makes for a much smoother and easier capture of the altitude on the climb rather than the descent here, because all we need to do is, as it starts to capture, we just pull back on the throttles a little bit, so that way the aircraft isn't trying to pitch to maintain that 250 by pulling up even steeper. So with that, we're good to go. We can turn the auto throttles back on, and the autopilot system will just kind of make up for that last little bit, coming up to 8,000 feet. So guys, I hope this clears up some confusion about the IAS, or indicated airspeed pitch mode of the Flight Director here in the C-130J. Sorry I got it wrong in that previous tutorial, but I'm going to leave that tutorial up here because it still is full of a lot of really good information. And like I said earlier, guys, if you're still confused about how to navigate in the C-130, use the Flight Director and Autopilot system, definitely take a look at that tutorial to help you out as well. So, Fly safe out there, guys. Let me know what you think of the new Royal Daimar Air Force skin for the C-130J, and enjoy this beautiful game and the new C-130. I'm definitely having a lot of fun with it, and it's a lot more fun to fly here in DCS than I originally thought it would be. So we'll see you in the next one, guys.